Med-surg nursing skills. Calculating IV replacement rates. So IV replacements may be ordered for ostomy losses, whether it's an ileo. Typically, it is an ileostomy because they put out a lot of liquid. Don't really see it for colostomies that often. But so these replacements could be ordered for ostomies, or they could be ordered for NG losses. Ileo and NG losses are typically the most common reasons you'll see IV replacements ordered for on a general surgery ward. So here's an example of one. The physician may write D5 1/2 normal saline with 20 kCl. That's your IV fluid. 1-to-1 replacements for ileo losses. So what they're saying is, however much was lost during last shift through the ileo, replace it with the same amount of this solution over the current shift. Let's dig a little deeper. So we look at the last shift totals and we find that ileo losses in the last 12 hours, the last shift, was 400 cc's. So how do we fulfill that order of 1-to-1 replacement? We're replacing every cc lost with 1 cc of this IV fluid. That's why it's called 1-to-1. For every 1 cc lost, we're replacing it with 1 cc of this fluid. And so again, last shift, we lost 400 cc's. So this shift, we have to replace it with 400 cc's of the IV fluid. And so the IV replacement rate is 400, the amount that was lost, divided by 12, because there's 12 hours in our current shift, equals 33.3 cc's per hour. With the IV machines, you typically round to the 10th. If we honestly, some nurses won't even bother rounding for replacements. They'll just enter 33 cc's an hour. And I'll be honest with you, on a med-surg ward, that's, it's not NICU, it's not ICU, it's really not that critical when it comes to replacement rates. I mean, for other drugs, for TPN, that 10th is very critical. But for replacement rate, or can be critical, for replacement rate, not so much. But nonetheless, if you want to be most correct, we can round to the 10th and enter 33.3 cc's per hour. Let's do another example. The physician may order D5 1/2 normal saline with 20 kCl, so that's the same solution, but this time at a 1/2-to-1 replacement rate for NG losses. So we have NG losses, and how we interpret these numbers is when you see an equation with anything other than 1-to-1, there should always be a 1 somewhere in there. That's been my experience anyways. And the 1 always refers to what was lost. The other number, if it isn't a 1, refers to what needs to be replaced. So in other words, for every 1 cc that was lost from the NG, we have to replace it with a 1/2 cc of this fluid. For every 1 cc lost through the NG, we have to replace it with a 1/2 of this fluid. Let's look at an example more closely. Last shift, the last 12 hours, the NG loss total was 600 cc's. Since we're replacing at 1/2, here's how the IV replacement rate would look. Again, for every 1 cc lost, and there was 600 cc's lost, we're replacing it with 1/2 the amount. So 600 cc's was lost, so we want to replace it with 300 cc's, half the amount. We want to replace it with 300 cc's over this shift, which is 12 hours, and that gets us 25 cc's an hour for the IV replacement rate over our shift.